Good morning. Once again, it is the 16th of December, the birth date of Sizwe, the People's Liberation Army. On this date, on the 16th of December, 1961, Sizwe was launched, and the first armed operations against the apartheid regime were carried out by the courageous soldiers of the People's Liberation Army. A pamphlet was distributed by the High Command of Sizwe that explained why the liberation movement had taken the decision that it was necessary now to take up arms against the racist, repressive apartheid regime that continued to commit crimes against humanity. We know what was stated in that pamphlet. It said, a time comes in the life of a nation, in the life of a people, where it must eventually be decided whether you're going to subjugate yourself or whether you're going to stand up and fight. And the pamphlet of the High Command of Sizwe stated, we have decided to fight. That same sentiment is expressed also in the oath of allegiance that each one of us who joined Sizwe had to lay down. We committed our lives. We stated that we were prepared to sacrifice our lives for the liberation of our people. And truly, if needs be, to make the ultimate sacrifice and lay down our lives. Many of our fellow comrades, many of our fellow combatants in Sizwe did exactly that. We saw them dying. We know the sacrifices that they made. We know also the sacrifices that we made, how we sacrificed our youth, how we risked everything. But we are proud of it. We are truly proud that we were prepared as soldiers for liberation, truly as soldiers of Sizwe, to dedicate our lives to the liberation struggle. We always believed that that liberation struggle must be for the full liberation of our people. Yes, for the struggle against racism, definitely, but also for the struggle for economic liberation, for the full empowerment of Black and especially African South Africans. We listened to the words of our commander, the longest serving president of the African National Congress, Comrade Oliver Reginald Tambo, when he stated so clearly that liberation must be not just liberation from racism, but also from economic oppression. He always taught us economic oppression and racism goes hand in hand. It dovetails. So that is the dedication that we've made. Personally, that is also the dedication that I've made when I joined both the African National Congress and Sizwe 43 years ago in Botswana. I committed myself to fight for the full liberation of especially the Black and African people in this country. And I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew that I was going to have to make huge sacrifices. I knew that my Afrikaner family were going to turn on me. I knew that I could have faced a situation that I could have lost my life. that I certainly could have lost my liberty, as it did happen, when I was arrested, detained, tortured, and eventually imprisoned for high treason for a period of 15 years, of which I served just short of 10 years. I knew all of that. I knew there was nothing to gain except my own integrity, except my own commitment, except being able to look myself in the face and to know that I'm doing the right thing. And that is why I'm sitting here this morning proudly in this uniform, in this camouflage of Mkontuisizwe. I've been ridiculed for wearing this uniform. I've been abused by those acolytes and supporters and bots of Cyril Ramaphosa and the so-called Tumaminites. But I've never allowed myself to feel for 1 millisecond uncomfortable or ashamed in this uniform, because I know why I'm wearing it. I know how I put it on the first time and how proud I was. I know why I'm wearing it right now, 61 years after the formation of Mkontuisizwe, expressing my dedication to the same ideals and celebrating the anniversary of our glorious People's Liberation Army. So today, we as members of Mkontuisizwe, especially those who belong to Mkontuisizwe Military Veterans Association, will be going to the Petrus Molefe Echo Park in Soweto. We will be laying wreaths at the monument there. We will be commemorating Petrus Molefe as the first soldier of Mkontuisizwe that was killed in the liberation struggle. But we will remember all our fellow comrades who passed on, who made the ultimate sacrifice. And when we are finished there at the Petrus Molefe Echo Park, we will move on to the 55th National Conference of the African National Congress that is starting today at Nasrec. And Mkontuisizwe veterans will be marching there in our platoons. We will truly have a parade. We will also picket, expressing our concerns about the future of the African National Congress, expressing our disappointment about how the ANC and the ANC-led South African government has failed us as military veterans of Mkontuisizwe, how they've not taken care of our needs, how many of our fellow MK veterans are in dire straits, living in poverty, some of them not even having a roof over their heads, not a job, seeing their children not being able to be taken care of, their medical conditions, some of which derives from the soldiers that they were for Mkontuisizwe, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and also physical injuries, are not being taken care of. We will express our outrage about all of that, but especially we will express our concern, our deep concern about the future of the African National Congress. We will state that we believe the ANC is now truly on a knife's edge, that this weekend will determine the future of the African National Congress, that the selling out that has been going on in the African National Congress, the terrible corrosive use of money and bribes, the buying of votes, which reached a height on the 54th National Conference of the ANC in 2017, which was also held at Nasrec, where Cyril Ramaphosa literally for over R1 billion bought his presidency and bought the places of the majority of NEC members. That bought NEC turned out to be the weakest, the worst NEC ever in the history of the African National Congress. And that Cyril Ramaphosa turned out to be the most terrible, the worst president that the ANC has ever had. That he committed one crime after the other. That he covered up the finances of his CR17 campaign. That he refused those bank accounts to be made public. That he abused our judges to cover those accounts and close them. That he lied about the monies that went into the CR17 campaign. That he lied about his relationship and the relationship of his son Andile with Bosasa right there in the National Assembly, committing perjury. That he was involved in several crimes concerning Glencore, corruption, breaking down our state-owned enterprises, refusing to implement the radical economic transformation resolutions of the 54th National Conference, only implementing one resolution, namely the so-called stepping aside resolution, rewriting it so that it was no longer recognizable from the original resolution that was taken at the conference, changing it from the 10 different categories that were set for members of the ANC to consider, to search their own conscience about stepping aside if they are accused of those matters, to one thing, being charged. And once you're charged, you are forced to step aside. And then to bring flimsy, unsubstantiated charges, such as the oversight charge against the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Ace Magashule, and weaponize that resolution and remove those who oppose your criminality and your selling out. And then, of course, finally, there was the Pala Pala farm gate scandal. Crime after crime, breaking our international monetary valuta regulations, going across borders illegally, abducting people, bringing people back into your Pala Pala farm homestead, torturing them. Amongst those that you torture is a woman, so you make yourself guilty of gender-based violence. I can go on and on. You don't declare, you don't report all of this to the South African Police Service, but yet you abuse government, taxpayers' money, SAPS equipment, including a helicopter, to look for your illicit money. And once you got it, you don't make any declaration. In fact, you arrogantly go to the Limpopo Provincial Conference of the ANC and state that you are indeed a farmer, that you sell animals, that you have a side hustle. While you know, in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, it is illegal for the president to have any other source of income and any other job. I can go on and on, but is it necessary? Is it necessary to do so after all these facts are so well known and out there in the public domain? For the last year and more, I've been making the call that Ramaphosa must go. I've been picketing throughout the country, sometimes alone, and sometimes together with other fellow comrades and concerned citizens. I didn't do so because I wanted to be arrogant. I didn't do so because I wanted to be impossible in terms of the relationships between leaders and fellow comrades in the African National Congress. No. I did so as a veteran, concerned member of the ANC. As a veteran member of the ANC who can see that Ramaphosa is destroying the African National Congress and is driving our country into the ground, that is destroying our finances, our state-owned enterprises, that has created a society now where we have the largest gap between the rich and the poor, where young people have over 43% of unemployment, even those who've got education, even those who've got tertiary graduation certificates. They can't get jobs. For them, the horizon is dark. They can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I've watched Ramaphosa plunging us into increasing debt with the IMF and the World Bank, to the extent that we are now one of the most indebted countries in the world. Not only us as this generation, but future generations, our children and our grandchildren, will pay the price, will be paying down that debt. We are now living with constant institutionalized energy insecurity. We're vacillating from level 5, level 6 of load shedding. Eskom is being destroyed right in front of our eyes. And it is no coincidence. It is being done deliberately in order to dismember, to decommission Eskom, to privatize it, to empower his friends and his family with so-called renewable and green energy projects that are not reliable. While we've got some of the best coal in the world, and coal power stations will provide us with the greatest energy security that is possible. All of this is happening. And therefore, we as Umkhonto we Sizwe, veterans, people who've dedicated our lives to the liberation struggle, have no other option, have no other message that we must convey. And that is that Ramaphosa and his fellow failed NEC members must go, and they must go at this 55th National Conference. Therefore, once we have commemorated the 61st anniversary of Umkhonto we Sizwe, once we've paid homage and laid our wreaths, and are there dedicating again ourselves and our memories to our fallen fellow comrades, we have a sacred duty to go to Nasrec, to the 55th National Conference, and insist that the delegates who are there must do the right thing and remove Cyril Ramaphosa. As I'm sitting here, my heart is very sore. I've now been a member of the ANC, as I've said earlier in this live broadcast, for 43 years. I've dedicated my life. I've served my prison sentence. When I came out of prison, the first day after I came out of prison, I started to work again for the African National Congress. I served in several positions that I'm very grateful for. Twice as the national spokesperson of the ANC, as a member of parliament, as an ambassador for my liberated, free, democratic South Africa. I did my best, my very best, in all of those positions. And I was always grateful for the opportunity that I'd been given. I also went to every single one of the national conferences of the ANC since the ANC was unbanned and I was released from prison. I've got beautiful memories of each of those conferences, of the political engagements with fellow comrades, of the discussions, of the rededication and commitment to our liberation struggle. During the last couple of years, I had to express my opposition to Ramaphosa. I had to express my opposition to the selling out that was going on in the African National Congress. I had to express my opposition to the lack of the implementation of the Radical Economic Transformation Economic Policy Program, which is the official economic policy program of the ANC. I also had to express my concern about the way in which our judiciary has been abused, how Ramaphosa abused that judiciary also to cover up his own crimes, and how over a period of time, our judiciary and our law enforcement agencies were captured, were used for factional political purposes by Ramaphosa, his acolytes, and those ministers that he appointed. If I did not do so, I would not be worth my salt. It would not be worthy for me to sit here today and to wear this uniform and to have next to me a photo of our commander, Comrade Chris Hani, who was assassinated by Janusz Wallosz, and whose memory, whose dedication, whose legacy was again, for the second time, assassinated and killed by the dastardly act of releasing Janusz Wallosz on parole. I would not be worthy of any of that or talking about any of this if I was not prepared to speak out, to stand up for the convictions with which I, in the first instance, joined the African National Congress and Mpangazitha. Then I would be a shameful person, a jellyfish, someone who is not a man of his word. So I had to speak out. In return for that, I was attacked. I was subjugated to the most horrible and vicious propaganda, lie after lie. My name, the position, the character that I have has been attacked and trashed in the mainstream media. In social media, Cyril Ramaphosa and his Tumaminites unleashed wave after wave of bots and bought tweeters to attack me. I always stood my ground. And then, of course, in a triumphalist way, the National Executive Committee that are in the service of Ramaphosa and indeed in his pocket, weaponized the National Disciplinary Committee of the ANC to bring trumped-up charges against me. Stupid, trumped-up charges. To say that I should be charged for having said that our judiciary are captured. To say that I should be charged for having criticized the entirely illegal sentence that the Constitutional Court passed against President Jacob Zuma, and that utterly outrageous sentence of 15 months of imprisonment that had been given to him. To charge me for having carried out diligently my duties as a member of the National Executive and the National Working Committee of Mpangazitha Military Veterans Association, and especially as the national spokesperson for MKMVA, when I conveyed the official resolutions, the official decisions of the NEC of MKMVA that said, we are concerned that our judiciary are captured. We are rejecting the sentence of the Constitutional Court that had been brought and instituted against President Jacob Zuma. We will stand up and protect him. We are opposed to President Jacob Zuma going to jail. I dutifully carried out those decisions. I went to Nkandla. I delivered that message to President Jacob Zuma's residence at Nkandla. I held a press conference stating what the position of MKMVA in all these matters are. In return for that, in return for having played a leadership role at Nkandla, when there was a leadership vacuum, when the NEC absented themselves, when there were huge and high emotions, when violence was breaking out, I tried to calm people. I tried to give leadership. In return for that, I was charged by the National Disciplinary Committee under the instruction from Cyril Ramaphosa himself. For more than a year, they proceeded with those charges time after time. They couldn't get witnesses. They couldn't bring documents of evidence because there were none. And yet they proceeded. Myself and Comrade Matthews Posa, my legal representative, overheard members of that National Disciplinary Committee saying to each other on a Zoom platform, when they thought we were not part of that platform, we'd better finish this case because the president wants this matter to be concluded. So yes, Ramaphosa wanted with all his heart and with all his anger and his hatred for me, because I was pointing out that he is a failure, that he's a sellout, that he's an agent of white monopoly capitalism. Ramaphosa wanted me gone. And so finally, after all the kangaroo court hearings, after all the silly postponements because evidence and witnesses were not available, the National Disciplinary Committee last Monday announced that I have been expelled from the ANC. They didn't bother to inform me, to send me a letter personally. They released their findings, their letter, on social media and to the white monopoly capitalists. There was no dignity. There was no professionalism. There was no legality in their actions. But yet, they insisted that I have now been expelled. So immediately, I brought my application of appeal against that expulsion. Within 2 hours, it was filed. And within 1 day thereafter, the heads of argument for that appeal were filed with the National Disciplinary Committee and the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeal. In terms of the ANC's own constitution, once you file an appeal, your expulsion is suspended until that appeal has been heard and adjudicated on. But that is not what this NEC was prepared to do, because they were hell-bent to keep me out of the conference. They were hell-bent to prevent me from being able to execute my rights as a full member, a veteran member of the African National Congress. So despite me having filed that appeal against being expelled, they insist that I could not come to the conference as a delegate of my branch, the branch that I belong to, the branch that I helped to form in Balitu in KwaZulu-Natal. Beyond that, I wrote to the management of the conference and said, I am a former member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, and all former members of the NEC are always invited to all national conferences. Therefore, I request to receive my invitation. If there's a fee that I have to pay, please send me the banking account details. I'm more than prepared to pay that fee. In return, I got a message that I am no longer considered to have been a former member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, that my name has been expunged because I've been expelled. And therefore, I will not receive an invitation, and therefore, I cannot come to the conference. So like Stalinists, they are airbrushing my name, my involvement, my history in the African National Congress, now out of the historic annals of the African National Congress. This is a shame. This is the kind of behavior of a despicable dictator. This is the conduct of people who do not care for the history of the ANC, for the liberation of our people, for the sacrifices that we've made for that liberation, who throw in our faces the dedication, the love, the commitment that we've given to the ANC. I will lie this morning if I tell you that I'm not hurt. Yes, I'm hurt. This is painful. Truly, I wanted to be present in this conference because this conference will determine the future of the ANC. In fact, it will determine whether the ANC will survive, whether there will still be an ANC at the end of these 5 days. But with jackpot style, with a dictatorship inclination, with a sledgehammer, I've been prevented. I will act with dignity. I will continue to insist that I have filed my appeal against my expulsion, and therefore that I am an active and full member of the ANC, indeed a veteran member of 43 years. I will not subject myself to the indignity of going to the gates of that conference and being blocked and prevented and probably abused as I was on the doorstep of Parliament last Tuesday on the 13th of December, where Ramaphosa sent in his riot police with their riot police gear to push and shove and assault me and the few other MVA comrades who were with me away from Parliament, denying us our democratic rights, denying us the right to express our freedom of speech, what we fought for, what we dedicated our lives. I will not give them the pleasure to come and assault me, to throw me out, to try and make a spectacle. I will with dignity insist that I'm still a member of the ANC. I will with dignity go to the commemoration of the 61st anniversary of MK there at the Petrus Molefe Eco Park. I will participate in the parade. I will be there as a fellow liberation soldier. And after that, I will join my fellow MK veterans and all other concerned ANC members and also concerned members of society in general at the gates of Nazareth. We will have a parade there. We will picket. We will deliver our message with dignity. We will insist that Ramaphosa must go, that the true ANC must return, that radical economic transformation must be reasserted in the resolutions of this conference, that true unity between MK veterans must be worked for, not a false, not a triumphalist, not a lie unity, but true unity based on principle. We will picket for the 5 days. We will insist that the ANC must return to its historical roots and regain its revolutionary heart. But I must say this today, and I say this with pain in my heart and with trepidation. I plead, I hope, I cajole, I do everything within my means to call on the delegates at that conference where I will now be barred from, where I will join together with fellow comrades at the gates of the conference, standing there, stating our unequivocal, clear message for the ANC to return. But if our delegates fail us, if they sell out, if they find it irresistible to take bribes and brown envelopes, if they return on the back of those bribes, Cyril Ramaphosa, as the president of the African National Congress, and the fellow sellouts that Ramaphosa has with him in the National Executive Committee of the ANC, then the ANC will die at this 55th National Conference. Then the ANC will reach its end. I've said so before, and I want to repeat it this morning again. Then, with pain in our broken hearts, we will be hammering the nails into the coffin of the African National Congress. We will place it in the grave. We will close that grave and put up the tombstone. The ANC will be gone. I want to state it also categorically, that while I'm fighting for my ANC membership, while I've appealed my totally illegal criminal expulsion, if Ramaphosa returns, I cannot be in the same organization with that thug, with that sellout, with that spy, with that man that has destroyed the future of our country and who has destroyed the oldest liberation movement on the African continent. There is no ways ever that beyond the 20th of December, I can serve as a proud member, and I say it specifically, as a proud member of the African National Congress, and especially also a proud member of Mpangazitha. There's no way I can serve in the ANC that has become the servant and the Trojan horse of Cyril Ramaphosa. Then it will no longer be the ANC that I joined 43 years ago. I've not changed. I'm still exactly where I was when I joined. I still live and dedicate myself to exactly the same ideals. Then the ANC will have left me, and then our ways will part. Not because I have supposedly and illegally been expelled, because that I'm fighting, but because I will take the conscious decision that it is over, that I can no longer be in the same organization, which can no longer be considered to be the ANC that I joined, with a thug, a piece of rubbish, such as Cyril Ramaphosa. That is where I am. Here I stand, and if need be, here I fall. If I need to make the ultimate sacrifice for this position, for holding on to the ideals for which I was prepared to go to jail and lose my family, in fact more, for which I was prepared to die, for which I told the judge in my trial when he said to me, "Young man, if you do not show repentance, I may just decide to sentence you to death, because the charge of high treason can carry the death sentence." And I returned back to that judge and I said, "Your Lordship, suit yourself." And that's the same message I convey to Cyril Ramaphosa and the sellouts that want to return into the leadership positions of the African National Congress. I will not be part of you. You can do what you want. You can throw at me what you want. You can try to humiliate me. You can try to commit character assassination. You can come for me. Suit yourself. Here I stand. Here I will fall if needs be. But rest assured, I will fight every step of the way. And with those words, I'm signing off as I'm now getting ready to get into my car, to go to Soweto, to bring my dedication and my respects to my fellow members of Umkhonto weSizwe who laid their lives down in our liberation struggle. And after that, I will go together with my fellow MK veterans to the gates of Nazareth, to the 55th National Conference. And I will deliver this message unequivocally and clear, without fear, without favor. There is no way that Ramaphosa can stay. A luta continua.